So Bernie really lays out what we as a populist left movement need to be looking for. It really is a testament to how he still has it, even if he is an old man and he just doesn't have the fight that he had even 10 years ago, which is fine. But he's still our Yoda, our Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you will. So here's Bernie.
I was at the Trump inauguration yesterday, and needless to say, I disagree with much of what he had to say. But what really struck me, however, is not what he said, which was not surprising given his rhetoric, but what he didn't say, The simple truth is that Donald Trump gave a major speech, the first speech of his second presidency, and ignored virtually every important issue facing the working families of this country. How crazy is that? Our healthcare system is broken, is dysfunctional, and it's wildly expensive. Not one word from Trump about how he is going to address the healthcare crisis.
Who else besides you is going to talk about it, Bernie? Kamala Harris sure as shit didn't say anything about it, or your good friend Joe. They didn't say a word. Maybe if they weren't bought and paid for by more billionaires than Trump and the Republicans are, they might have actually mentioned, yeah, we're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have health care. So that's
you guys are right. It's controlled opposition. Bernie's controlled opposition. But it's annoying to me in that he says this as if this is somehow unique. It's like what you're saying, I don't recall him calling them out for not doing anything.
That's the problem. Now, he's not wrong with what he's saying, but you can't only see one side of it. That's the problem. There is a reason Trump gets there. Trump gets there because the system's broken and the Democrats are more guilty than Republicans. Because the Republicans come through the front door, the Democrats try to sneak out the back door and do the same shit.
We pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, sometimes 10 times more than the people in other countries. And 1 out of 4 Americans are unable to afford the prescriptions that their doctors prescribe. Not one word in his speech on the high cost of prescription drugs. We have 800,000 Americans who are homeless and millions of people spending 50 or 60% of their limited income on housing. We have a major housing crisis in America. Everybody knows it. And Trump, in his inaugural address, did not devote one word to it. Today in America, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had. The wealthiest 3 people in America now own more wealth than the bottom half of our society. But Trump had nothing to say, not one word, about the growing gap between the very rich and everybody else. And maybe, just maybe, that's because he had those 3 people, the 3 wealthiest people in our country, sitting right behind them at its inauguration.
Is there any reason to believe if Kamala won that she wouldn't have had similar optics or even worse optics?
No, I don't understand why this is silly to me.
We're not going to get to address it tonight because it's a story that will evolve because Vivek is going to announce his candidacy for governor in the state of Ohio very soon. We'll get to the fact that he's already out of Doge. Jen, you could take a victory lap. You said he'd be the first one out.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about, I did call when Trump first appointed the cabinet people that not only will none of them make it 1 year, but I did call that Vivek would be the first one to drop. So I'm just saying, yeah. Peter called me. He's like, I should bet odds on what you say. What did you say to me?
Yeah, I said you could definitely take a lap. You did say that Vivek would be the first one out, and he couldn't even last 24 hours. I mean, that was fast.
That's definitely faster than I expected.
And you even said, okay, so Trump has, Bezos, Zuckerberg, and Musk standing behind him, but you insist that these guys really hate each other. This is all dick measuring for them. They all want to be the biggest swinging dick in the room.
Yep.
They don't give a damn about it. It's honestly, it's partially it's playing God if you're somebody like Bill Gates, but for these guys, it's not even about money. It's all about ego. It's about being the number one.
Yeah.
And they're there basically to kiss Trump's ass and see who's going to get the next, I don't know, contract for space.
None of them, like, those are not the kind of people that have real friends.
No. How could they?
No, that's way too much ego. That amount of ego cannot get along with each other. That doesn't work. That's why I thought Vivek would be the first one to go.
That to
Musk
me
is too financially invested because he's too financially invested to be out so soon, which is why I predicted Vivek.
It's the same thing. I still think Musk is nowhere near as dangerous as Miriam Adelson, and that's who we really need to keep an eye on. Just like, we covered what happened earlier. So when Bernie is waxing poetic about the fact that Trump had billionaires behind him, Bernie, again, it'd be one thing if the Democrats did not have the same problem, if not an even bigger one.
How many billionaires donated to Kamala?
83. How many donated to Trump? 51.
And by the way, and by the way, Bernie, those same exact ones standing behind Trump would be there if it were Kamala.
100%. And not only that,
they might not be on camera, but they'd be there. They'd be present. They'd be participating.
And let's not forget, Kamala received almost 3 times as much campaign contributions. And this was in 100 days that she got this money. So the argument has to be framed not as Trump is this and that. It has to be the system is this and that. That's what it is.
And I should add that those 3 people, if you can believe it, and this really is unbelievable, saw their wealth increase by more than $233 billion since the November elections. How's that? $233 billion increase in wealth for the 3 wealthiest people.
Because the system's broken and it will not sustain itself. It's not real. This is all fake. The truly richest person in America is really Warren Buffett because his wealth is in actual hard assets. He owns real estate. He owns things. These are tech billionaires.
Gates owns real estate.
I'm sorry?
Gates owns plenty of real estate.
Oh, he most certainly does. And that's really where Bezos' wealth comes into play. Those monstrosity distribution warehouse centers, like the one that we have in Miramar, Florida, that's where Bezos' wealth really lies. It's in those industrial distribution centers. Those are tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in value. That's where his money is.
No wonder they were sitting right behind Donald Trump at his inauguration. They couldn't be happier. During his inaugural speech, Trump did not have one word to say about how we're going to address the planetary crisis of climate change.
What did Joe say about it?
The last 10 years have been the warmest years ever recorded, and extreme weather disturbances and natural disasters are taking place all over the world, from Los Angeles to India, across Europe to North Carolina. Not one word from Trump about climate change, except, of course, to make it clear that he intends to make this horrific situation even worse with drill, baby, drill.
All right. And what has Joe done?
Nothing.
No, Joe has drilled more and issued more permits and done more in his administration than Trump did before.
That's true. And so when the liberals come out at the 11 o'clock hour saying that Biden nixed a land drilling permit right before he walked out the door, my attitude is, okay, that's nice, but what about all the others that he approved over the last 4 years? Okay, so we stopped Trump from doing one project. You think that's good? That makes up any of the difference of the ones that he
approved? My understanding about that is that it was a project that wasn't going to go through anyway. there was something else about that project that made it a safe one for him to say, I don't want that. It wasn't just, it had nothing to do with like care of the environment.
Yeah, things got so much worse environmentally under Biden, like in an absolutely astronomical way. And that's not even addressing the things that took place under his watch, like East Palestine and Kalamazoo and Jackson, Mississippi. And technically, if we're really going to go in on it, Los Angeles, California. This is all on Joe's watch. Now you could say,
well, I'm not going to go with that with the forest fires, but yeah.
There's a lot of things that they could have been doing to mitigate those problems in California.
I agree to some extent. And then if anybody else watches Kim Iverson, go watch her take on the fires. And then I would just say ditto. Like, I think there's a lot of personal accountability. I think there's a lot of different things that we're not talking about. And we want to just put the blame on government. And I don't agree in all cases. And I think this is one of those. So it's nuanced.
Good point, Kat. There's also the issue with the lithium battery fires. Let's continue.
Just brilliant. In the coming months and years, our job is not just to respond to every absurd statement that Donald Trump makes.
That'd be nice.
Our job is to stay focused on the issues that are of importance to the working families of our country and, in fact, are widely supported by the American people. Let me just mention a few of them. Yes, healthcare is a human right, and we must join every other major country in guaranteeing healthcare to all people through a Medicare for all single-payer program. Healthcare is a human right. Yes, we must take on the greed of Big Pharma and substantially lower the cost of prescription drugs in this country. Yes, we must build millions of units of affordable housing and low-income housing. Yes, we must make sure that all of our young people have the ability to get a higher education by making public colleges and universities tuition-free. Yes, we must work with the global community to combat climate change by cutting carbon emissions and transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel and into sustainable energy.
All right, hold on. Stop for a second.
We must pass legislation.
All right, first I wanted to address this because we're getting like good super chats. So I want to at least be addressing them while it's still pertinent to the conversation that we're having before we move on. So my good friend Joe Biden, who I will never call out, Bernie turned out to be a joke. And yes, I used to like him. And, you know, we've called him out plenty and we're doing that now. But at the end of the day, there's no one else talking about these issues.
No one.
That in that position, there's nobody talking about it at all. So that is why he gets the floor. And then there was a follow-up comment that I want to.
Bernie is going to do things.
And I agree. Bernie is so fake. He did not call out the billionaires at the DNC convention. I agree with that. Not that Bernie's necessarily fake, but that he does pick and choose and selectively call out certain things. And that's one of our biggest problems with him as well.
Oh, I agree.
Legislation to raise the absurdly low federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour to a living wage of $17 an hour. Anybody who works 40 hours a week in this country should not be living in poverty. Yes, we must pass the PRO Act and make it easier for workers to join trade unions.
I don't recall him nagging at Joe.
The trade union movement in America.
I recall him saying Joe was so good on labor. Meanwhile, Joe campaigned on the PRO Act, and then I don't ever recall them talking about it again.
Anybody who wants to suggest, and listen, we have been very adamant about what did Biden actually do that was good. I mean, again, he will go down as a failure as a president, like an absolute failure.
He's going to go down linked to genocide.
But when you're being objective and you could say, well, is there anything that Biden actually did good? Yes, Lena Khan was good. improvements in the NLRB was good. Allowing the UAW to negotiate their contracts was good. Joe Biden became the first president since Reagan to break a strike. There is no coming back from something like that, especially a Democratic
just don't
president.
get to claim that you're good for labor when labor in this country is dying.
Dying. And when Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters, which I believe at one time or another, with 1.3 million members, is the biggest union by population in the country, decides that I have to go speak at the RNC. If that's not a sign, I don't know what the fuck you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yes. In order to help fund the needs of working families in this country, we must demand that the wealthiest people in this country, including those individuals sitting right beside Donald Trump at his inaugural, start paying their fair share of taxes. Yes, we must end a corrupt campaign finance system which allows a handful of billionaires to buy elections and move us rapidly into an oligarchic form of society. Bottom line, as we enter the new Trump presidency, we have got to remain focused. We cannot panic. No matter how many executive orders he signs, and no matter how many absurd statements he makes, our goal remains the same. We have got to educate, we have got to organize, we've got to put pressure on Congress to do the right things. And by the way, with Republicans only holding a 3 or 4 seat advantage in the House, we can stop them time and time again if we are organized. Finally, my friends, we have got to fight to create an America based on economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. That's what we've got to work on. Let's go forward. Let's do it. Thank you.
You know, I want to share this one sentiment about our upcoming congressional election, which will take place on Tuesday. And Jimmy Petronas is going to win. He will be the next.
And for people who, you can't just assume everybody knows what you're talking about. Give a little bit of a backstory.
So I am in Florida's first congressional district, the one that has been vacated by Matt Gaetz. And we will have a new congressman who will be elected via primary, because this is a plus 20R district, on Tuesday. So that is when our special election is coming up. But for all intents and purposes, the CFO of the state of Florida, Jimmy Petronas, who is a decent guy, I like him, he's going to win, and he will be the next congressman. He not only has Trump's endorsement, but he was able to raise $1 million for this race. The next closest competitor to him is former House Representative Rudman, who has raised about 150,000, 200,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Granted, he also probably had a head start because he knew it was coming.
That's true. And then
he had a heads up that Matt Gaetz was going to be, like, he knew the whole thing was coming, probably.
Yeah, and it was like 150,000, like something like that. And then Aaron Dimmock, who had ran previously against him, he had about 130,000, something like that.
Not even close.
Except in the beginning, just knowing that it was most likely going to be the three of them. And then there's this one wealthy guy over in Pensacola who decided to put like 400,000 into the race. But it's obvious that Petronas is going to win. Now, why do I bring this up? I bring it up because while Petronas has obviously raised the most amount of money, you know who's raised the second most amount of money in this particular race? The Democrat who's running on the other side.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
How a person who is going to lose this race by 30 points is able to raise the second most amount of money for this race?
Because a whole bunch of tools are sent, I bet you. And the majority of that fundraising is coming from not that district. Not
a chance.
It's coming from all these liberal tools that think they're going to actually get somewhere by doing
I got one of the text messages. Hey, I'm running against I'm running against Matt Gaetz' old. We're going to flip this thing.
Oh, for God's sake.
You know, that probably goes out to all the old grannies who are Democrats who have a few
I say it all the time. If you are giving money to a candidate that also takes corporate money, you are a moron. It's that simple. You giving money to somebody that's not a grassroots person is a joke. They're taking it from both ends.
What if you're giving money to a candidate that has no chance of winning?
Well, that's also, well, again, that's different depending on why. Like, for example, I supported Dr. West. All right. So there's cases where you want somebody's message and you want their campaign and you want them to start some sort of movement. And so we've said it before that a campaign is useful in those cases. But in the case of somebody giving money to, if you're just a regular working person and you're giving money to a candidate that takes corporate and PAC money, you're stupid. Now, if you're a working person and you're giving money to a grassroots candidate who doesn't take money from those other places, that makes sense. That's being part of the solution. I just don't be tools, people. Don't be tools for capital.
And unfortunately, there are way too many that are and still trying to break them out of it. But when I saw that number on the Florida Politics website, I just said,
who is it? Do we even know who it is?
No.
It doesn't even matter. If
you
you have given money to the Democrat running for Matt Gaetz' seat, you really need to seek some help. You really need to seek some help.
You are. You're a dupe. Like, there's just no other way around it.